Welcome to Scale Smart Live. I am your host for this evening, Taja M. Graham, CEO and founder of Ops IQ. So glad to have you here tonight. I just want to share with you guys, I've been hearing from some of our subscribers why they are finding Ops IQ so beneficial to them. So give me a minute. I want to share with you. One of the things that I'm hearing is it is providing me a playbook, Taja, that I can just simply take, run with it, and start to really see clarity in my operations. I am so grateful to hear that. It also is telling me what I'm hearing is you have provided for me a C-suite of advisors that I could have never afforded on my own. It would have cost me well over $1 million to have that type of advisement at my disposal. So I'm just grateful to hear those early on sounding praises of what's happening in Ops IQ. I welcome those of you that have not yet experienced Ops IQ. We are hosting an event on February the 11th at 12 noon Eastern time. It is our sneak peek event. We would love to have you to be a part of it. So we'll share details. Here is a QR code for you to be able to download and sign up, register for that event. And we look forward to having you there. But today, we're going to dig into what it really looks like to build trust and transparency inside an industry that historically hasn't been designed for either of those things, basically. Home improvement and construction are complex, fragmented, and often confusing for consumers. They make them ripe for disruption. But this particular guest that we have tonight has figured out a way to make it a real plan of transparency for those that they work with. I am excited to have Jon Grishpul, founder and CEO of GreatBuildz and Maxable, with us today. Jon has been building tech-driven platforms that put homeowners first, simply discuss this decision-making and challenging how to trust is created in a legacy space. So Jon, I'm so grateful to have you here tonight. Please share with us a little bit more about your journey and how this has led to this place.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I don't know where to begin, but I run two companies. One of my companies is GreatBuildz. That's really my core entity. And we, like you said, specialize in helping homeowners find ethical, trustworthy, reliable contractors. I have a complicated background that is not directly related to the construction industry at all, but I have a background in marketing and technology and sales. And alongside my business partner, maybe 6 or 7 years ago now, we put our heads together and knew we wanted to solve a big problem. And his background was in development and construction and flipping homes for many years. So he knew firsthand how bad it was, how difficult and stressful the process of remodeling is, and also the core issue of the fact that there's just a lot of shady contractors out there and a lot of homeowners that may not know what they're getting into until it's too late.
Those are valid points. And I love the fact that you were able to bring what has been your skill sets and passion over to align with that in building that trust factor for your consumers overall. That's very, very well played. Talk to us a little bit too about Maxable, because I think that's a whole different scenario as well.
Right, similar but different. So I also operate another company, MaxableSpace.com, and that is really the same concept as GreatBuildz, helping homeowners, helping good people work with good people, whether they need architects, contractors, lenders, whatever. Maxable specializes in accessory dwelling units. It has different terminologies in different parts of the country, but essentially all it is an independent living space, often referred to as a tiny home, in the back of your backyard, in the back of your lot. And you can use it for family, you can use it as a rental property, you can really do whatever you want with it. And here at Maxable, we specialize in guiding homeowners through the complicated, difficult, stressful process. And again, making sure that they only work with ethical, reliable, trustworthy people, whether it's architects, contractors, lenders, design build firms, anything start to finish.
Yeah. So as you and your business partners were coming together to really build out what are these dynamic brands that you have, and knowing that you wanted at the intersection that transparency to be more than just a value, how does that get conveyed throughout your operations, especially knowing that you're dealing with contractors?
Yeah, well, we looked at our competition. What other way is there to go find a contractor? If I'm a homeowner and I want to build an ADU, or if I want to redo my kitchen, I can either go to Google or Yelp or some other websites that I'd rather not talk about, and it'll show me a list of options, and I can call them, and maybe the top five options are the top five best, but
Mhm.
more often than not, it's actually the ones paying the most for advertising. So that really just leads to an industry that is riddled based on the way that these processes work with advertising and so on. The best contractors are not necessarily the most successful ones. They're not the ones getting the most business, and they're not necessarily the ones coming up at the top of Google. So it's not that easy to find a good contractor, even if you have the old-fashioned methods of searching for one. So we knew that there had to be a better approach, a better way, and honestly, a more human-led, human-focused approach so that homeowners who don't do this very often not only have the way to get in contact with the right people, but also the support and guidance through the process to ensure that they feel confident with making their decisions with who they hire and how they approach their project.
Yeah. So stepping outside of what has been the traditional and bringing it, as you said, in a human led atmosphere, what are some of the things that had to change for you guys within the business dynamic overall, as far as either by your process or in your decisions that are made, especially being that it's more human held and led? And how do you evaluate that for success?
So I'd say the core differentiation here is the fact that the old way of doing things, like the Yelp or the Angie's List, those types of websites, they benefit by having as many companies, as many contractors join their network as possible.
Interesting.
They sell leads or they sell ad space. So they don't care if it's a good contractor or not. If they're willing to pay for leads, they want them on their site. So inherently, based on that business model, based on that approach of building a business, you are incentivizing as much as possible, whereas with regard to contractors, whereas truly what we believe is it's not about having as many contractors in the network as possible, but really taking the time to thoroughly evaluate every single contractor to ensure that they're good, to ensure that they're trustworthy, to ensure that the company is led by good, honest people. And that's just how I like to do business. I like working with people I can trust. I like doing business with people who are good people. And that's really what led us to create our business model where we don't sell leads, we don't sell advertising. Contractors can never pay to get involved in the network. The only way that we make money is if a homeowner meets with one of our contractors, they absolutely love them, and the price is right. A homeowner hires the contractor pays us a small marketing fee. Plus, we stay involved every step of the way. We really want to see every single project through completion. So we check in with the homeowner, we check in with the contractor, we provide guidance and support as needed to ensure that every project that a homeowner hires a contractor through us for, we can ensure that everything is completed properly and that the homeowner is happy with the finished result.
That's wonderful. Do you find though, with your way of handling the process with that transparency, have you found there to be any areas of where you might have a cogwheel or the process just doesn't seem, talk to me about the early ons of it, and then how is it with this process and being able to differentiate yourself from the marketplace? Have you been able to see yourself excel in your growth as you guys have desired?
I mean, that's the name of the game here. Where your show is called Scale Smart,
Yeah.
right? The question is, how do you scale a business that is so human led? And it's not easy because as we've had many conversations over the years of how can we rapidly grow, how can we double, quadruple in size by next year, the conversation always comes back to the fact that we have humans in the loop. It's so, so important. And a lot of our customers, that's one of the most important elements of what we do, is the fact that they have someone that they can talk to. It's not a system. It's not an automated approach. There's no fancy app. I'm not an app developer. But what I know how to do is ensure that people feel safe, feel protected. And so it's not, I'll say the name of the game has not always been focused on hyper growth and scaling quickly for us. We want to make sure that we can uphold our quality standards for contractors, as well as our customer experience that we provide to our homeowner clients. So it really comes down to thinking about what are the most important elements of our business, what processes are imperative to ensure that we can deliver on our brand promise, and what other elements of our business can we automate, can we streamline on the back end? How can we ensure that we can still deliver an excellent experience while making things as efficient and effective as possible behind the scenes?
That's a good point. Well, let's talk about a little bit about the bringing transparency to home improvement projects, which is our topic for one of our topics for tonight. For homeowners, clarity often feels simply on the surface, but it requires a lot of internal alignment. To your point about the human touches and the capital that you've invested there, what had been let me rephrase this a little bit. What have been true inside the business before you could simplify the experiences for those customers?
I'd say when it comes to transparency, I'd say our main focus, at least from the very beginning, has always been extremely thoroughly vetted contractors. We didn't develop a fancy algorithm. We don't have some sophisticated back end. That's not what we do. We focus on making sure that people feel safe. And what that means is putting in the hard work to evaluate contractors. I don't have a secret sauce. And like I said, it's not a fancy algorithm. I have pages on my website that reveal every single step that we take to vet our contractors. But the problem is, for the average homeowner, it's difficult, it's confusing, it's time consuming. So we figured if we can streamline that process on our end and thoroughly, effectively evaluate many, many contractors in every single area that we operate in, that can make the process so much easier for the homeowner. They don't need to sort through hundreds of listings online. They don't need to read through dozens and dozens of reviews and different websites. They come to us, they tell us exactly where they're located, what type of project they want to do, their budget, their timeline, and we handpick the right contractors based on what we know about them that are best fit for that project. And it's not, there's no smoke and mirrors, there's no disguise. Alongside every time we introduce a contractor, we include a full detailed report that we've run about them, including reviews that we've read, feedback that we've gotten from clients that we've spoken with, their license number, how long they've been in business for, their insurance and their workers' compensation, general liability, their bond, every single detail that homeowners should be looking into but may not have the time. We put it right in front of them so that it's super clear to them that this isn't a lie. There's no fancy tricks here. We're showing you everything. You've got the cards in front of you, and it's up to you.
Yeah, that's a good. So they still have the ability or some autonomy to say, yeah, thank you for the advisement here, but I still want to go with this other contractor. You still give them that autonomy to make those decisions.
That's correct. And as a part of our free service, and again, homeowners never pay us a dime. Our service is completely free, and the only way that we make money is when we do make a successful connection, if you will. But I'll say when it comes to transparency, another piece of it is being honest, having my team be honest with our customers, our clients. So if they tell us that they've met with 2 other contractors, they've already gotten estimates, but they'd like to get 1 or 2 more, we'll put them in touch with our contractors, and then we'll help them compare all 4 bids that they received. We'll put them side by side. I created a really helpful tool that helps homeowners evenly, effectively evaluate multiple bids, because that's another major issue in this industry is that no two estimates will ever look alike.
Mhm.
So it's really difficult to tell, okay, I got 3 bids, one for 30K, one for 50K, one for 70. With You would like to think that the $30,000 bid is the right one, but you never know. There are often things missing. There are things intentionally omitted sometimes. So that's a part of our free service, is ensuring that homeowners make the right decision, whether it's one of our contractors or not, and we'll tell them as such.
Yeah. So, knowing that you guys definitely have a more detailed and vetted process, and that's obviously allowing you more space in the market to differentiate and gain more clientele because of the uniqueness of your offer. As you look ahead, you've done great in being able to garner that marketplace, and as you look ahead in that growth, how does that look in the expansion internally for your team? As you said, some of that is not automated. So, the fact that you sit down and address these various contract offerings one on one, how do you replicate that for the expansion and growth that you look for?
Yeah, well, look, in business jargon, we operate a two-sided marketplace, right? We have a network of contractors and we have a network essentially of homeowners. So it's important that we even out the scales on both ends. So really, to launch in any new geography, we just need a small network of contractors that we know and trust. That's the time-consuming, laborious part, or one of the time-consuming, laborious parts. The other part is advertising, is marketing our product, marketing our service, getting our name out there so that people find out about us. And from a marketing perspective, we spend a lot of our energy doing SEO and other PR opportunities like this, because I wholeheartedly believe in our concept. I feel so strongly every time I talk to a homeowner and they feel at peace about moving forward with their project and at project completion. That warms my heart, and I know that I love it, and I know that other people love it too. So if people had just had the opportunity to learn about GreatBuildz, I know that it's a service that they would appreciate and really get a lot of value out of. So when it comes to scaling, it's about finding good, honest, ethical contractors in new geographies, and then finding that the marketing channels that are effective in each of those areas. For context, we initially launched just in Los Angeles, LA County. That was in 2019. After a few years, we felt comfortable growing to a few of the surrounding counties. And over the past 2 years, we have now operated throughout pretty much all of California. So that's been the scale plan so far. Is there an opportunity? Is there an option to continue growing geographically, to expand nationwide? That's certainly the dream. That's certainly the vision. But like I mentioned before, slow and steady wins the race. We're really making sure to take our time, make educated, well-informed decisions. And I am not willing to scale this business if it compromises our brand identity and our ethos as an organization. So it's slow and steady. It's making cautious risks and making moves that make the most sense for our business. And obviously, I get phone calls and I get leads all over the country. And as soon as I have to break the bad news that I unfortunately don't operate in Florida or New York or North Carolina, they say that's so upsetting. I wish there was something like you out here. And I tell them, soon enough. But that's certainly the vision, because I know that our service is amazing, and I know that more people would appreciate it if we can offer these services everywhere else.
Yeah, I think that's very smart, right? Is that you want to make sure you're tested and proven in the market that you definitely can control and manage well, right? Before you try to test outside of that scope where you don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to be able to demonstrate that, for sure. How does that look? Because again, you're managing and operating in two different logos right now, right? So how does that look even on the other side with the other brand? Because there seems to be a very succinct focus over here. How does that translate over to the other brand?
So on the front end, they operate fully independently. As soon as we get leads through our Maxable website, we engage them with our Maxable staff, but if they need a contractor, then we liaise them over to our GreatBuildz entity, because the way that we kind of operate it behind the scenes, we're sister companies, and Maxable is powered by the GreatBuildz contractor service, if you will. So on the front end, GreatBuildz helps homeowners find contractors. Maxable helps homeowners build ADUs. But on the back end, we have pretty much the same network of contractors, because if it's a good contractor that builds ADUs, they belong in the GreatBuildz network as well.
Yeah, very smart. Absolutely. Well, let's tackle what is this second subtopic we have tonight: building tech-driven platforms with limited resources. Give me some thoughts, some feedback on that topic of discussion for us here, Jon.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, like I mentioned, how can I grow and scale my business while not sacrificing the human-led approach? Technology. And it really comes down to finding the right systems that work for us. Figuring out how to streamline operations, automate the stuff that is okay to be automated, like some email, like some background maintenance and management and database work. How can I get the boring stuff out of the way and make sure that I'm having my employees do the most important work possible? So I use a lot of different systems on the back end, whether it's our CRM or my automation software, and many, many other tools to really ensure, again, that my staff can really focus on what matters, and I can focus on making everything else work seamlessly without them knowing it.
And so as you've continued to grow, do you find yourself doing an evaluation and making certain that those systems that you're using or the process that you're using is expanding with you in the way that you see it moving forward?
Yeah, I'll say pretty much any tool that I build, whether it's public facing or behind the scenes, the initial build is just a test, because I don't know if it's going to work, and I don't know if it's going to be useful, and I don't know if anyone's going to get benefit out of it. But as soon as it's a proven concept, as soon as it runs for a couple days or a few weeks, and I can validate that, oh, my team likes it, it's saving them time, overall everything's working and there's no bugs, great. How can I build this to be defensible? How can I build this so that it's a system that can grow with us? So that's truly one of the core concepts when I am building any final system for myself or for my team or otherwise for our customers. I really want to ensure that it can take whatever you throw at it and that it'll work and scale with us, because nobody likes bugs, nobody likes issues. So, and I'm the tech guy, so it's my job to have some sleepless nights and make sure that everything works as best as possible.
When do you identify that there's need for, some implementation of an automated process or a new tech stack? What are the triggers that you're finding that says we need to look into this and figure this out?
Well, as a self-proclaimed nerd, there's always time, there's always a way to make a process better. There's always a way to streamline a certain operation. Again, whether it's front of house or back of house, right? So I'm always talking to my team. We have all hands meetings regularly, and I get perspective from them of what's working, what's not, what's taking the most time of yours, and how can I find a way to streamline it. As far as knowing what systems that work and knowing when a system isn't working anymore, it's really when I get feedback. And if I notice that there's a lot of errors going on or bugs, more and more bugs that need to be fixed, or if my team comes to me and says, hey, this was working, but now that we have a lot more business, it's not working as well as it used to be. Those are typically the triggers that initiate me to take a look into each of those specific systems. But otherwise, I have too much fun. So I'm always looking for a way of, okay, I just read about this new technology. I'm going to test it. But if I like it, I think I have a way to use this fancy new tool to make this process better. And
Mm.
especially with the growth of AI over the past few years, that has provided a wealth of resources, a wealth of knowledge, and a wealth of capability that no way could have been possible by me or by many other people until the last few years, until now.
Yeah. So let's go back to former John, probably, what is 5 years ago or so, when you were in this nuance of startup where, we've got capital that we're kind of keeping in reserve and our bandwidth is kind of failing thin. How did you make the conscious decisions in being able to automate or the right processes? Because a lot of founders, they find themselves saying, I got a lot of things everywhere and I don't know where to put the focus first in order to ensure that we're getting some optimization out of just that one metric. How did you find your path to being able to determine which was the first trigger to pull to optimizing that?
Yeah, well, look, we are fully bootstrapped. We never started with any source of funding that was not our own. So that really meant that from the beginning, we had to be scrappy. We had to find a way to make it work with what we had. And that really meant being creative and coming up with innovative solutions that may exist in other industries, or maybe nobody has ever needed this exact solution before. So before AI and before all of the automations, I'd say the main impetus of the drive to start solving these problems really came from, I'd say, the ethos of our company. Like we've talked about, we've always focused on helping good people work with good people, and having that human-led approach has always been so important for us. So keeping that at the forefront of our mind is, we know that we want our staff to be hands-on. We know that we want to provide a top-level experience for every single client that we ever interact with. So how can we maintain those quality standards without spending all of our money and without scaling or doubling, quadrupling our staff? And we've managed to stay lean over all the years, and we've scaled, we've grown the business. Like I said, we operate throughout the country, or throughout the state now here in California, and we have found a way to continue being scrappy, to continue being creative, and really all work together. I'd say that's another really important piece too, is that we have a small team, but we are like family, and we work so well together, and we have open channels of communication top to bottom. So if I need something from my team, I trust that they'll handle it, and vice versa. If they're dealing with a problem or an issue, whether it's professional or personal, they know and they trust that myself and my business partner, Paul, are going to be there to support them. And they also know that I'm a nerd, so I enjoy solving these big problems.
I love that. Where do you find yourself going to find resources or mentorship to helping you, navigate what are, these startup businesses that you've been able to scale? What have been those areas that have given you opportunity to see and grow and get perspective?
There's a lot of great books about building businesses and entrepreneurship and startups. There's a lot of outstanding YouTube channels and bloggers and writers online that talk about their side of things. A lot of entrepreneurs sharing their stories. And that's where I've gotten so much inspiration from, whether it's high level conceptual of what do I want to think about when I build a business, or more tactical and tangible, like how do I build this system in a way that works for me? And when it comes to learning and getting direction, there are so many admirable people out there that have had these problems in the past. And I have known for a long time that I do not need to reinvent the wheel. I do not need to build everything from scratch. I can look for inspiration. I can look to people who have done things like this or had similar problems as I have. And whether it's consuming their content or reaching out to them and asking for advice, I think all of those things have really helped steer me in the right direction, and give me the resources and the information that I need to feel confident enough that I can do it on my own.
That's good. And I love the parallel too, the fact that you can lean to those, gain your trust, and how you then would implement that gains the trust of your staff and team that you're working with, that then goes forward to how it looks and feels to your consumer and gaining their trust. I think it's very poignant how you look at that overall as a business leader. I appreciate that point of references throughout, and I think that then speaks again to the transparency that you have been able to quickly gain in the consumer base that you are in the industry that really has been broken in that area. So let's look at our last topic of this evening, because I think it kind of full circles back. How do you rebuild the trust in a broken industry? Rebuilding trust in a broken industry. We kind of just talked about it. Trust is created by one good interaction. It's created through consistency, which you've talked about tonight. What do you pay the closest attention to as you scale to make sure trust doesn't erode?
I'd say that I feel like a broken record, but at the same time, it's focusing on the customer experience, focusing on our ethos as a brand and what is the core problem that people are dealing with, and how can we find a way to offer either this identical level of service or something as close as possible to it to a broader audience. So I think one of the ways that I'm accomplishing that is this tool that I built called Bid Compare AI. Like I said, we specialize in helping homeowners choose the right contractor. And one of the most important steps in that process is evaluating bids. And they're so difficult to read. And the average homeowner who doesn't remodel very often may not know what to look for, may not be able to spot the red flags that they should. So when it's between vetting a contractor and evaluating bids from a contractor, there's a lot of telltale signs that you can identify in a contractor's estimate, especially when you have 2 or 3 or 4 that you can compare. So this tool that I created, Bid Compare AI, essentially takes all of our experience, all of our wisdom in evaluating contractor estimates, identifying potential red flags, looking for red herrings and looking for what is truly a good bid, not necessarily just a cheap bid. And that tool works on its own. There's still a human in the loop. I do my best to review many of the estimates that go through to ensure that things are working properly and reliable and trustworthy. It's sharing trustworthy information. But at the end of the day, that's one of the ways that I'm thinking that I can provide my help to a broader audience, where it doesn't necessarily need to have a person reviewing those estimates. The tool that I built using AI takes all of my learnings and all of the information that we use internally to evaluate these estimates and puts it for free on our website. So homeowners don't need to use GreatBuildz to use the tool. They don't need to reach out to us. They don't need to be based in California. If they have estimates that they need to compare, this tool will help you do it. And the next step in this vision is taking that same process and applying it to contractor vetting and screening as well. Like I said, a lot of the things we do to screen contractors are not difficult or necessarily even confusing. It's just time consuming. It takes effort to go through all the steps required. But that is especially a space where AI is revolutionary in a sense, because it's not going to do the thinking for us, not necessarily. It's not going to do the creative work for us, but it can do a lot of the busy work for us. And that's the systems that are, those are the concepts that are being proven more and more now as AI continues to develop. So the busy work of going to 10 different websites, evaluating reviews, going to the state licensing board to verify their license, to ensure that they have insurance and workers' compensation. A lot of that work can be streamlined and automated, and I'm not working on it yet, but that's certainly the vision.
So let me ask you the tricky question here, Jon. So your consumer base, and I love the add value of being able to pull in what are those quotes and being able to determine what is the best operable one to suggest. I think that is brilliant, even if it's not in an area that you provide service to. It definitely speaks and expresses to you want to give that value of transparency. I love that. Your customer base, or those that you are reaching out to, that consumer, builds trust in you based on the things that you are providing in way of what is the ability to look at the quotes, what it is in the fact that you are vetting these contractors on their behalf so that they don't have to exhaust the time and energies into it. How does that convey? And I know you spend a lot of time in ensuring that these are very high quality contractors, but has there been the occasion where a contractor doesn't live up to your expectations? How did that look for you, and how did you overcome that challenge?
It has happened before. I'm not going to lie and tell you that we have the perfect network, because turns out every contractor in our network is also human. And it's important to remember that the person sitting at the counter across from you, the bank teller, the person at the grocery store, these are all people. And every business that tries to run a positive environment, we do our best. But there's always issues. People always make mistakes. And honestly, what we really identified in this space is we've talked a lot about the one half of the contractor experience is making sure that they're vetted and honest and trustworthy. But the other piece that we haven't spent too much time on is the fact that the average homeowner doesn't know how to approach these projects. So it's really about helping with equipping them with the right questions to ask their contractors. Just because we vetted them doesn't mean you're going to love them. It means that they pass our test. So it's important that our customers, the homeowners that we work with, that they ask these contractors the questions that are important to them, so that they can continue to ensure that we know that they're vetted, but they need to ensure that they're the right fit. And that said, there has been an occasion years ago where a homeowner hired one of our contractors. This was actually one of our favorite contractors. He had done so much great work for us, and so many homeowners absolutely loved him. But when he was hired for this project, he was going through a divorce. He, I think, had lost someone in his family. He was going through a lot of turmoil in his personal life. And in front of the customer, he had a total mental breakdown and got aggressive. Fortunately not violent, but it turned into very quickly it turned into a very stressful situation. And at the end of the day, like I said, he was a good guy, and he still is a good guy, but he made a mistake and he let his emotions get the best of him. And obviously that had the ability to tarnish our reputation as a company, for that homeowner to never trust us again. But going back to the trust and honesty piece, we were very upfront with that homeowner. We were very transparent with them about what had gone on, the fact that we were extremely apologetic that they were in such a situation, but because we had built the rapport over the time and because they had enough faith in us, we asked if they would consider letting us introduce them to a couple other contractors, and they trusted us to do that. They ended up hiring another contractor from our network. Obviously, they got rid of the previous contractor, and we never worked with them again either. But the new contractor that they hired, they loved him, and he did a job well done. So things slip between the cracks. People make mistakes. And on one hand, it's about owning up to it when we do make mistakes, and also doing everything we can to support them and give them as much love as they might need. Not to buy back their love. We don't need them to love us. We just need them to give us a chance. And again, no contractor is perfect. And for anyone who's ever remodeled before, it's never 100% amazing. There's always things that go wrong. There's always a disagreement between the homeowner and the contractor. But what I always like to say to everyone that I talk to, every homeowner that I talk to, thinking about a remodel at least, is that it's not if anything will go wrong in the project, because for any large scale remodel, something will go wrong. But a good contractor is the one who will treat you with respect and meet you in the middle and work with you to find a solution, as opposed to pointing fingers and playing the blame game and making it all the homeowner's fault. And those are the contractors that I want to work with. Those are all the contractors that we have recruited into our network, are the ones that are first and foremost good people.
That's a good point. And, to your point, we've talked about it throughout the night. There's the humanality of what you do in comparison to what is the automation or the innovation of what you do. And so as long as there's that consistency, right? Like that this one moment doesn't overarch or overlook all of the other consistent moments that you have been able to provide that transparency and the delivery at excellence. Should be able to withstand that. I really appreciate you sharing that and being vulnerable and sharing the good and the bad, because I think it's important for founders to hear that, right? So I really appreciated this conversation and just hearing a different perspective in an industry that hasn't always been to what you guys have conquered, that transparency and just giving your consumer base, those that are going under contract with contractors, the ability to have truly an open eye to how they're going about the process. This has really been helpful. One closing question that I have for you, Jon, and again, thank you for being willing to be a guest with us tonight on Scale Smart Live. It's good to hear the success of what you've been building and how it will continue to scale as you're being mindful of the areas of how the operation goes. But for those founders who want to scale responsibly, like you have noted out there, without losing the integrity that they've made their company work to being in that place like you are, what advisement, what final words of encouragement, or would you give them in perspective that they can take away and glean from tonight's conversation?
I'll give a few pieces of advice. One, don't accept the way that things are done for the way that things need to be done, right? We've taken an industry and tried to flip the entire business model on its head. And we've proven in a David versus Goliath environment that we don't have many millions and millions of dollars to spend on advertising. We don't have hundreds of thousands of contractors in our network. We're just a small company in Los Angeles, and through being scrappy and being creative, we've found a way to do it. And even though it's totally different from the way it's ever been done before, we had an idea and we weren't afraid to try it. So that's one. And two is, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to look for advice and reach out to people you look up to, or seek inspiration from those around you that might be doing something similar, whether it's in the same industry or a different industry. I've reached out to a lot of people over the years for guidance and for advice and support. I know when to say that something's over my head and I need help to do it. And honestly, it's gone the other way around too. There have been some other people who have reached out to me in the past that said, I love what you're doing. I want to take that concept and do it in this area, or I want to take that concept and do it for this industry. And I support them every step of the way. I love it. And I'm happy to be an open book. I've spent many, many hours helping others accomplish many of the things that had taken me years to figure out. And I think that's how we grow and develop as a people, as a community, as a whole, is that I don't need to keep any secrets. I know that what I do is hard work. So if someone wants to try it, go for it. But at the end of the day, we grow together, we learn together. And by focusing on the community and focusing on being honest and supportive, I think that's how I grow my business. That's how other people can grow theirs. And by working together, we can accomplish something much greater.
Well, Jon Grishpul, I appreciate you being my guest tonight. For those that are in the LA, California area, and you're looking for a rebuild partner, I would definitely would recommend GreatBuildz and Maxable if you're looking for that tiny home experience. But thank you again for being with us tonight. Thank you for those that were watching tonight. We appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks for another episode of Scale Smart Live.